Hello, everybody, and welcome from wherever you're watching, probably the couch, to hear the Round 5 clash at the ninth season of Apex Rewing here in the British Touring Cars. Tonight, we are not coming to you in a live capacity. We are coming to you in what I suppose could be considered a video. We've had some issues getting the stream up and running, or more precisely, I have. But regardless, we are here tonight, once again, at the little-known circuit just outside Whittlebury in the United Kingdom. Some of you may have heard of it if you're particularly into motorsport. It's called Silverstone. My name is Liam. I'm also known as Madbird, and I'm joined in the commentary box, as always, by Matty Dunlop. How are you, Matty?
I'm good. G'day, Madbird. G'day, everyone watching. Great to have your company, as always. Well, not necessarily live, but wherever you're watching from and whenever you're watching, great to have you tuning in. We are here at Silverstone, indeed, the full Grand Prix layout of Silverstone. And not the current one with the arena, the infield layout. This is the OG bridge circuit with that long sweeping, that quick right-hand king after the bridge, that old classic 90s, early 2000s layout that the British touring cars of 1996 would have raced on. It is round number five of
Yes, it is.
Apex Rewing Season 9, and we're here in the Super Tourers, and it's a ding-dong British battle that's shaping up right now, Madbird.
It is indeed. The man on your screens at the moment, Berto, is currently topping the timing screens, as he has 3 times so far this season. He's taken out 3 of the 4 pole positions thus far. So at the moment, the time he's set is about 0.5 of a second faster than his rival Ziras. So about to head into qualifying, and it looks as if he is set to maintain that pole position streak if he keeps it up, Matty.
Yeah, absolutely. He's already, he's over half a second above Ziras at the moment, which is uncharacteristically quicker than that purple and green BMW. We've seen Berto, as you said, at the top of these timesheets. He's very good with his one-lap pace. So we can expect him to do very well in qualifying as well. But when the race comes, things get a little bit thrown out the window. Not necessarily thrown out the window. Berto's a good performer, but he's currently sitting in second in the point standings at the moment with a little bit of a gap to Ziras at the front.
Yeah, a DNF in the reverse grid race last time out at Brands Hatch has certainly cost him some points. With Ziras coming home in third on that occasion, with very close to Sam Smith and Lewis Wedding, which was an absolute ding-dong end to that second race, as I'm sure you remember, Matty. But
oh, absolutely.
We are just ticking over into the qualifying session here at Silverstone. So you can see there we've got a 10-minute session. No shootout. It is just 10 minutes to set the fastest lap that you possibly can. There is a point on offer for the pole position spot. And of course, the results of the first race, the results of qualifying determine the grid for race 1, and the results of the first race determine the grid for race 2 in reverse. So we've got unlimited laps on this occasion and on all occasions this season here at the old Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, the bridge layout as they call it, because there is in fact a bridge. Not particularly creatively named, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. And how do you find this Silverstone layout, Matty? Do you have a favourite Silverstone layout? Do you even like Silverstone? Let's have a chat about the track, eh?
I do like Silverstone. I'm not normally a fan of flat surface because it's very hard to see character in a lot of the flatter ones, but I think Silverstone is one of those main exceptions. This old layout I haven't really had much experience with, because whenever I've been playing or racing in simulator races, I've always used the new layout with that farm section, the infield, and I haven't really touched the bridge circuit for quite some time. But it is obviously a classic with that fantastic bridge corner leading into Priory and Luffield and Brooklands and all that sort of thing. And you've still got the rest of those classic Silverstone corners, you know, Cops, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, all the way down. I could just name every corner on the track. They're all classics. So, and there goes that there's a good reason for that as well. It's because it's such a fantastic track. Each of these corners presents a really unique challenge, and we'll be seeing a lot of bumps, like on the track surface as well. Is something that a few of the drivers have been complaining about. Not necessarily complaining, but sort of saying it'll be a bit of a challenge for them. There's a big one in Luffield, that final corner before they run onto the main straight. And also I've noticed in the Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel complex, there's a little bit of bumping that seems to be unsettling Berto. So there could be the potential for a driver to get tripped up and make an unfortunate mistake when they weren't planning it. Not that everyone's ever planning a mistake.
We did have the same complaints. Of course, we were here for round 1 about 5 weeks ago even. We were here for round 1, but that was the national circuit, I believe it was, or perhaps international. It had national in the name regardless. And on that occasion, Ziras took the biscuits in the first race with a first place finish and then came fourth in the second race. So he's obviously got form here at Silverstone. Last winner in a actual race for points at this particular layout, that is bridge, was Decimage. And that was way back in Season 2 in the Super V8 stock cars. Oh, sorry, not Super V8 stock cars, just the V8 stock cars. Brazilian stock cars, that is. And Ziras at the moment, looking like he's going to be the first one to take a lap in anger around this circuit.
He's also looking very oversteery through Luffield and Brooklands there. And that could be something that plays havoc on his tyres throughout the races, because we've got 16 lap races, I think it is. So the tyres will be wearing down quite a bit, especially in those rear-wheel drive BMWs, and that's something that Ziras and Brenton Foley are going to have to be very wary of. I saw a bumper bar flying off the back end there. Did I miss something?
Probably. The bumper bars seem to be the first thing to catch, to be caught out in these cars. Just cycling through the field, I can't see anyone obviously missing one, as, whoa, Ziras slams it in sideways into, I think that was Beckett's.
It was.
Yes, going through the Beckett's complex. I did go on board with him for a minute there just at the start of his lap, but it was almost impossible to hear anything over the sound of that mighty BMW engine roaring.
Very raw, untapped sounds coming from these Super Tourers. And Ziras is really sliding through every single corner. I'm starting to get a bit worried. I might watch Brenton Foley for a little bit and see how he's handling his BMW, because for those of you who've been watching Apex Rewing for a little bit of time, Brenton Foley you will know as the king of sliding cars around corners, and it's normally done to very good effect in the Caterhams and the DRMs, which are the last two seasons we had. Very slippery rear-wheel drive cars, and Brenton Foley was able to take full advantage. And he's in the only rear-wheel drive car in the field here, which is that BMW. But he hasn't really been handling it super well in the first few races. He's been getting pretty comfortable with it. He's made 1 or 2 appearances on the podium, but he still says he's not fully comfortable with them. But he seems to be rolling around the track a lot smoother than Ziras is at the moment, but that could just be because he's just siding his lap at the moment, getting ready to make a full tilt on qualifying a little bit later in the session.
Yeah, like you say, on the first couple of rounds when he was sliding all over the place, I just assumed that he was back in his natural element, but he has dissuaded us of that notion and let us know that he in fact is feeling a little bit jittery in the car. He's also had a lot of issues, poor guy, with his computer locking up for just a second or two at a time. Only in AMS. He plays a lot of other games and has no issues in any of them, but AMS just seems to have it out for him. He had a almost surefire win last week at Brands Hatch, stolen away from him as a result. So hopefully he's gotten that sorted out for tonight, but I guess we'll have to hold our breaths for that. So Ziras has taken first blood with a 157.5. He's currently sitting at the top of the timesheets, and Sam Smith second, but this man on your screen, Berto, is just coming around to complete his lap, and he is not able to beat Ziras on this occasion. Just about 0.02 of a second slower on that particular lap.
It's so close, isn't it? I wouldn't be surprised to see Berto top that time later in the session, because he sort of has that ability to just adapt to the track and learn it over the course of a session, get comfortable with the conditions, and you generally see Berto putting in his fastest lap times towards the end. Ziras is normally bang out of the box, straight up posting quick laps. So this session is definitely far from over, even though you look at the margin and it's less than 3/hundredths of a second between Ziras and Berto at the front. But speaking of issues, just Sam Smith, I've noticed in the practice and in the qualifying here as well, he's having some issues with, I think, either his internet connection or his local hardware, because he's having big lag spikes. So that hopefully doesn't cut into his ability to race here tonight, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I did see that during the practice session beforehand. He was lagging right off the track, so hopefully that's all rectified in time for the big dance. I'm using an AFL term there for those unfamiliar with it. Ziras just coming around the last corner. Doesn't look like this is going to be a particularly fast lap though, so it looks like he was stuck behind Sam Smith for a fair while. So he's going to hopefully be loading up for another hot lap. It's quite a long lap, nearly 2 minutes, so there's only 4 minutes left to run in this qualifying session.
Yeah, that's true because it's almost a 2-minute lap, so you really have to get your laps on the board straight away, and you can't make any mistakes in this qualifying because you really don't have much time to play with. As we see Brenton Foley sliding right off the track there through Cops, so that's not a corner he seems to be super comfortable with. Thankfully, there's a lot of concrete run-up on the back there, but still, that's something he'll want to get straightened out before the race.
Yeah, just catching a replay of that. So just well off and then oversteered around. Did quite well to get out of the way of Sam Smith as he came around the same corner. And as we've got Ziras completely oversteering coming out of his garage.
Yeah,
and,
speaking of oversteer.
Yeah, just straight around and then looked like he wanted to drive off down that little escape road and thought better of it. So he's now leaving the pits for real. He's probably going to have just enough time to bang out 2 more laps if he gets around quickly.
We do have a third BMW in the server as well. He was absent from practice, but now Fruity Ping has joined in the car number 11. And he'll be hopefully getting out and qualifying at some point this session. And we're also still waiting for Tyrrell in his Nissan Primera in the Jeff Beta Racing, that green car, to post a lap as well. So we've got 12 cars in the session right now, 10 of which will post at a time.
Yeah, and it's pretty close, only 2 seconds separating first from 7th. So not a huge spread. Probably huge in a professional sense, but for us that's quite close. Tyrrell was saying earlier on this evening that he's not particularly confident tonight, but he's been just chipping away and he's been getting the minor points finishes when he has finished races. So he just needs to keep his head calm and try to keep his head in the game, and he might pick up a couple of cheeky points here or there.
Yeah, honestly, that's the name of the game. Cheeky points are where it's at, because these races are often pretty attritional filled. So you have drivers either DNFing, crashing out, making big mistakes. So as long as you can just stay on the track, stay consistently quick, and just put in good lap times and keep your nose out of trouble, you'll generally find yourself in a pretty good spot by the time the checkered flag flies.
Yeah, Fruity Ping yet to come out of the pits, and he's not going to have enough time to get around to start a flying lap. So he will be starting from the back of the grid for the first race. And I reckon Ziras has had a track cut at some stage, because he is not currently... No, this is still his out lap. Pardon me. So he will have one last opportunity to post a hot lap. We've only got 1 minute and 30 seconds left in this session, so anyone who's within 1 minute and 30 of the start-finish line should be able to do one more hot lap after this.
Same goes for Tyrrell. He hasn't posted a lap yet because he's been suffering from track cuts as well, I think, but he's about to cross the line to start, hopefully, the lap that gets him on the board. We don't want to see too many drivers not making qualifying laps. They will be able to start the race, of course, but it's always good to get a benchmark, and he shot straight off at Cops on the first go, so I think I may have cursed him very heavily there.
You cursed him immediately before he even had a chance to go around the first corner. They have upped the track cuts as they did in the first round. It's these versions of Silverstone are particularly harsh on and strict on their track cuts, so they've upped it to 5 rather than the customary 3. Usually you get 3 strikes and then 3 warnings and then a penalty. We've now got it up to 5 warnings and then a penalty, which in the first round was not enough to prevent Decimage from getting a penalty, so hopefully he can pull his head in a little bit tonight.
And that could be something as well that creates a little bit more unpredictability in these races. They are pretty unpredictable as it stands already. We normally see the main few guys floating around the podium positions, but point standings will show that we've got quite a decent spread of podiums down the field. With Goofball Antics, who's currently sitting 6th in the points at the moment, having finished 3rd in races twice, as Ziras is sliding all the way through Priory there. So I think he's having a good old time. He's finished with his session. So Ziras will not improve, but Berto is still out on a flying lap, so we'll keep tabs on him this qualifying session. But speaking of low podium getters, Lewis Wedding, who made a wild card appearance last time out at Brands Hatch GP, won the second race. So he's currently sitting 10th in points at the moment, having only competed in one event. So props to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about a maiden victory. Wasn't really anywhere in the first race, but second race, that battle between himself, Sam Smith, and Ziras at the end of the race was absolutely captivating. Annoyed my girlfriend no end with my screaming, but you know, you gotta bring the energy. So Berto at the moment on our screens doesn't look like he's going to improve on his lap, so it looks as if Ziras is going to be the one to take the pole position point this time around. Just waiting for Berto to cross another sector split. Last time I saw Yeah, there you go. So he's 2 tenths down on his PB and about 3.5 tenths down on Ziras. So looking like Ziras is going to be starting from the front of the grid.
Yeah, and pretty much everyone else is in the pit lane at the moment, except for Tyrrell, who's buried in the fence. And he has posted a lap of 2 minutes 10.1. So Berto is the last car out on track, and unless he can pull a miracle through this final sector, which I'm not really sure he can, he will be starting from second on the grid. He's just coming around the final corner now, going to the start-finish line, and he will be second. So Ziras. Oh, it's close, though.
Yeah.
Jeez, he was pretty close to pulling that miracle, wasn't he?
He pulled it back in. He was 3.5 tenths down at the second sector split, and he ended up only being about half a tenth or just a little bit over behind Ziras. So he did pull some time back in the last sector, but just not enough. And Ziras takes the pole position for the first race.
So that pole position is going to net him 1 extra point in the championship standing. So he's already expanded his lead out just that little bit. So his points tally now sits at 104 instead of 103. And he'll be hoping to add to that in the next couple of races that are coming up very, very shortly, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you're mentioning the points, I will quickly run us through said points after round 4. So Ziras on 103 points, or as you say, 104 points now. Berto with 86 points, trailing him by 17, or now 18. Sam Smith on 71 points. Resist 57, with Brenton Foley nipping at his heels with 46 points. Goofball Antics 38 points, and Greg Turra with 26. With Desamaj and Roadhog tied on 25 behind him in 8th and 9th. And Lewis Wedding with his with its 2 races and his 1 win under his belt, sitting pretty in 10th with 19 points. So if he manages to come back for any more races this season, he is in for... if he has that sort of performance again, he could easily find himself up towards the pointy end of the point standings.
Yeah, he's a supremely talented driver who normally makes Australia. But he thought he'd come and say good day to us and everyone else who watches Apex Rear Wing and give it a go, and he did pretty well, didn't he? So we've got a very close midfield points battle at the moment, as you said, between Roadhog, Desamaj, and Lewis Wedding. So Roadhog and Desamaj... Greg Tara, Roadhog and Desamaj. So Greg Tara not appearing tonight, unfortunately, but Roadhog and Desamaj certainly are. So those two will be duking it out. Roadhog in the four-wheel drive Audi A4 and Desamaj in the Peugeot 406. 2 very different cars. And it'll be interesting to see how they go around this very quick Silverstone circuit with fast corners. But they are both tied on points, both 25 points apiece, and they will both leapfrog Greg Tara. So they'll be taking off on a championship battle of their own. And we're just out for the exit lap as we see the drivers getting close to forming up on the grid. No, is this a warm-up session? I believe this is a warm-up session, actually.
Yes, this is the warm-up session. So, no, you're all good. I'm as eager to get there as you are. Couple of no-shows from that entry list you just saw. As Sam Smith looks like he's disappeared from our screens again and then reappeared. So that lag continuing to be an issue. Hopefully it does not rear its head in the race. Bagsy for Poker Sweat Racing Team has pulled his computer apart and then plugged everything back in, and it started up, but everything's running like a slideshow, so no luck there for him attending tonight. Greg Tara, as you said, not going to be here, and neither is Rody in the 4th BMW. So it's only a grid of 12 tonight, but we've got the ones that are at the pointy end of the point standings here, so everything's still to play for.
Yeah, don't let less cars make you think that it's going to be less quality racing, because it's still going to be fantastic scraps as we see the cars making their way around the track. And I did make a mistake. I thought it was the start of the race, but it is in fact the warm-up. That's okay. We're not live, so we can edit that in post, as they say. So what they'll be doing now, folks, is they'll be coming around to make practice start. So if you're just tuning in to the live broadcast, which I just realised you won't be because we're not live, so you can disregard that. But
another thing to fix in post.
Yeah, we'll fix that one in post, no worries at all. I'll have a counter nearby so I can count how many times I've done that. And the practice starts are pretty useful because it allows them to get all the little jitters out, which I could probably use right now for this commentary stream, and get comfortable with driving around this track in race conditions, side by side through corners, things like that, and just figure out how they're going to be able to handle things through those first couple of corners to make sure we get a nice, smooth start for race 1.
That's it. And I'm right there with you, needing to get the jitters out. First time sitting in both commentary and race stream directors' chairs, and I've made an absolute meal of it so far. So let's hope the night can only go up from here, Matty.
We'll be fine. Don't you worry. And don't worry, folks. It's going to be a great show. So don't turn this video off. Just keep it up there. Go grab a cup of tea. Sit back and enjoy. It's going to be a grand old time. So let's talk about race predictions because it's a very fast track. These cars aren't super different in power, but there's slight little discrepancies. The BMWs have a little bit more power on average than the rest of the field, but they're also rear-wheel drive as well. I think the BMWs are the most powerful cars in the field this race. But do you think that's going to be much of an advantage for Ziras? What do you think, Berto and Charles?
Well, we're about to find out with this practice start. It looks pretty even from what I can see. And in fact, Ziras quite comfortably ahead coming into the first corner, so that would suggest that the BMW is going to get a better start than the Renault. But of course, doing practice starts in warm-up is very, very different to proper starts in the race itself. Definitely nowhere near as much pressure on you, so who knows what will happen when the lights go out for real. But the BMW, being a rear-wheel drive, does seem to sort of squat off the line a little bit, which helps it with its speed. A little bit like the Audi, which we know has lightning starts, but we have actually had a update to the Audi, which allows it to, I think, vary its torque, which Roadhog implied. He said to me that that will mean that the starts aren't quite as lightning as we've seen so far.
But one of the main drawbacks for that Audi of Roadhog's has been his just lack of race pace in comparison to the rest of the field. We can see on the reverse grid races that he normally shoots up from a pretty high position and makes his way up to the front before the first corner, but he very quickly loses those spots as his car's quite down on power. It's got the lowest power to weight ratio of anything in the field because it's a very heavy car as well, owing to it being all-wheel drive. So do you reckon that torque adjustment is going to help his race pace, Malbert?
I'm honestly not sure. I never claimed to be a car man, so I'm not even 100% sure what it means. But it was something that was in the mod already. It just was not activated in this particular series file. So he asked everyone if we would mind if he activated it. Everyone pretty much said, "Nah, that sounds alright, mate. You go, you do you." And he has indeed done him. So I guess we're gonna have to wait and see how it turns out in the race.
Yeah, hopefully he can start putting together some pretty good results because he's normally been a pretty strong competitor, especially in the midfield, making his way up to the pointy end of the positions in latter or former series of Apex Rear Wing. But at the moment, he's sitting 18 points in that battle with Decimate, as I alluded to earlier, and his best finish so far is a 5th in the second race at Silverstone, the Silverstone International layout. So this is the GP layout. They're kind of similar in terms of characteristics. There's a lot more fast corners here on the Grand Prix layout as you go through the full Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel complex, also Stowe, a lot of corners like that, bridge and whatnot. So basically the bottom half of the track, really. So being able to corner quickly is crucial. I think that's something where Berto's Renault is going to excel, as Ziras loops his car around on the exit of Cops there and almost collects the entire field. Hopefully that doesn't happen in the race. Yeah. But we have seen this Renault Laguna of Berto's has been really dialed in the corners, especially in comparison to Ziras' BMW when they've been battling. But if you have a look there, he's really, really bumpy and getting off-settled and like thrown off the track almost through that left-right-left complex that I was alluding to earlier. Have a look at this car as he goes through Stowe. Nope, he's gone to the pits. Never mind, we won't be able to see that at all. He heard me coming. He didn't want me to put any curses on him. So he just went, nah, stuff this, buggering off to the pits. So we'll have to watch Sam Smith at the front instead and hope he doesn't have any more of those lag spike issues. As we see, Brenton Foley having a big slide through Stowe, right behind him.
And barely hanging on to it. He's got the 2 red cars of Decimage and Goofball Antics squabbling over his position. This is only warm-up, but it is often a good opportunity to practice a little bit of racecraft, see how you're probably going to be faring with those who are likely to be near you on the race start. And Sam Smith, just on our screens again, having a little bit of a lag spike there. He will be starting 3rd, so it's a decent starting position for him. But with this lag issues, I'm worried that it might be wasted tonight.
Yeah, hopefully we don't see anything like that, but we're not sure what's going to happen. He's been having issues seemingly every session, and his ping seems to be going up at the moment once again, so hopefully nothing untoward. But yeah, it's a good qualifying result for him. He's able to string together a good lap. but he is sitting in third in the point standings at the moment. And he's finished off the podium a few times at the last 3 rounds. So he's got good podium pace. He's got 4 second-place finishes and a third, yet to win a race so far this season. But if these issues keep up, I'm not sure he'll be able to do it here at Silverstone.
Yeah, I wonder what it is, because he doesn't usually have any issues. He's being in Victoria, his internet's usually quite, well, serviceable, I suppose, unlike their herd immunity to coronavirus, coronavirus, I was about to call it. So that's a subtle little dig. Subtle is not the word I'm looking for. But
yeah, look, we're not doing fantastic over here. I want to say we're trying our best, but apparently we're not doing that either. So, you know.
I'm sure some of you are trying your best.
I certainly am. Oh, what's happened?
Josh Bagsy has managed to get into the session. So his computer that was in pieces, I was led to believe, on the floor, has presumably been put back together. And he is out there in the Poker Racing Sweat Nissan Primera. So we are up to 13 runners for tonight.
We are up to 13 runners, provided that Sam Smith can get his issues sorted. Josh Bagsy's got to get comfortable with the Silverstone circuit real bloody quick, though. We've got 1 minute left in this warm-up session. He probably won't be able to put together a full lap because there's every chance that they'll just end the session soon before all the cars have come around to complete it. So Josh Bagsy's going to have to get comfortable with these bumps pretty quickly. And there's a massive bump that you'll notice in Luffield, which is the final corner of the track. I'm not sure how close Bagsy is to that. He's actually pretty far away from it right now. As we see a bit of smoke coming from Tyrrell's car, so I think he's blown his engine.
Ooh. Yeah, it looks like as he pulls off to the side at, I believe that is Abbey. And now this is the eponymous bridge, which is why this layout draws its informal name, the bridge layout. And Bagsy just coming up through Priory and soon to be Brooklands, and indeed there is Brooklands, so let's get on board with him, see if we can spot this bump that you're talking about through Luffield.
So it's a patch of concrete. You'll see it right about now on the apex of the corner.
Oh.
There it is, and you hit it, and there's a massive bump there. You can see it sort of throws you off the racing line a little bit. I heard Decimage and I think Goofball Antics complaining about it as we were talking to the drivers in the practice session, so that's going to be a big thing to keep an eye on as Josh Bagsy comes across the line to finish the warm-up session. I don't think there's any other cars out there at the moment, but
No.
there are not. So except for Fruity Pink, who's rotated his car on the exit of Cops. So
that beautiful number 11 BMW.
that car is something else, isn't it?
Can't wait to see that turn some laps in anger. So the warm-up session has expired, so we will be heading into the race any moment now. Here is the information for the race. So race 1 of round 5, 16 laps. So 12 laps to be classified, 62.7 kilometers. It is the Bridge GP version, as we discussed earlier. The last winner of this particular layout of Silverstone was Decimage, way back in Season 2 in the stock V8s. It's about 5.4 kilometers, or 5.14 kilometers even. 17 turns in a clockwise direction. And quite a lot of that distance is some very long straights. You've got the Hanger straight, you've got the straight between Cops and Maggots, and then you've got Vale and the run down to Abbey are all quite fast, of course, along with the start-finish straight. So will the faster cars, the BMWs of this world, find some good results here, or are we looking for the very high-speed corners, of which there are several on this track, that may perhaps lean more the way of the Renault of Berto and others? It's all to play for, Matty, and I'm bloody excited. How about you?
I'm really excited as well, and I am going to throw a wild prediction out of this race because I'm tired of being safe. I really am. I reckon Resist is going to win this one.
Oh, well, that is bold. Where did he qualified in 4th, so he's on the second row of the grid. So that's not a long way from 4th to 1st.
And we know he's quick as well. He's had a couple of podiums so far, and the rest of his finishes have generally been up in the pointy end. He's had 3 fourth place finishes, and he's quick in that Honda Accord. And he is, of course, the brother of Ziras. Very, very fast driver, of course. It's hard to go past Ziras.
It really is, isn't it?
It really, really is. But I like going for dangerous bet every now and then. I am a gambling man, so I'm going to put Resist down for the W for race 1. What do you reckon, Madbird?
I'm gonna see your Ziras, or see your Resist rather, and raise you Resist. I'm gonna put my money down alongside yours, and say I think it's about time the other Sizer brother took the chocolates. But I guess we're gonna have to wait and see how it goes. Ziras, of course. We started that warm-up lap very quickly. Do apologise, viewers. Ziras is on pole. He's taken his second pole of the season. Behind him is Berto, who was not able to pull out any more time to capture Ziras ahead. Behind him is Sam Smith, who, while quick, has been having some lag issues tonight, so hopefully they don't rear their head during the race itself. Ziras' brother Resist, who we've both tipped for the win, so can't wait for that to be horribly wrong, is starting in 4th place. Brenton Foley in 5th place. Hopefully no computer issues for him tonight. Zarlingier in 6th. Decent qualifying for him. Up at the pretty much the pointy end, ahead of Goofball Antics in the Scuderia Pronomaly Alpho as they head on down towards Abbey. Roadhog in the Infineon Audi Sport with new torque control, so we'll have to wait and see how that plays into this race tonight. We've got Netherelmian in 9th place, a little bit out of position there. He hasn't had fantastic results so far this season, but you just feel like he keeps plugging away. He's going to get a decent result eventually. Decimage starting out of 10th place. Tyrrell out of 11th as the last of our runners who set a time. And then we've got Josh Bagsy, who joined very, very late in the piece. And behind him we have got Fruity Ping in that gorgeous Dick MW, I think we're calling it. So everyone's coming around to line up on the grid, Matty, and my goodness, that one sprung up on me. Do apologise.
Yeah, that was pretty quick. Thankfully the lap here is pretty long, so gives us a bit of time to get our predictions, our wild predictions, and our starting order out of the way before they grid up again, and they are starting to grid up pretty soon now. So the drivers are making their way into their spots, and once they do that, we'll have the light sequence and we're ready to go. So I'll hand it over to you for the start of race 1.
Thank you very much. Do apologise for that cursor you can see on your screen. This is a professional operation, I promise. You can see Bagsy on the left, just pulling into his grid slot. He's going a very aggressive line, going to the inside. So the lights are on. The revs are rising, although they're in the distance. The lights are out. And Ziras looks like has got the better start over Berto, with Resist having a decent start behind. And Brenton Foley jumping out, attempting to make some positions off the start. And he's gotten ahead of Resist. And Sam Smith not going anywhere, really. He's stuck behind behind Berto. And behind them, it's all been pretty clean, with Roadhog gaining a position off the start and Decimage 2 positions off the start. So very good starts for those two.
Yeah, Berto's been struggling with his starts all season long. He still hasn't got it down pat in that Renault, and you can see how much of a gap Ziras pulled off the line there. We're seeing some side-by-side action between the two red cars, the Goofball Antics and Decimage, a little bit further down the grid at the moment, as the whole field pulls down the hanger straight on their way into Stowe. Ziras still leads the way at the moment with a big slide. That might cost him a little bit of time, and it certainly will. Berto's going to have a look up the inside almost. They're pretty close, not super close at the moment. Berto's going to tuck in behind, try and get on his rear bumper as they make their way through the Vale chicane and through the club corner. Yeah,
that BMW really, really struggles with pretty much every braking zone, and especially braking zones that involve turning, which is pretty much all of them. I can't think of a braking zone that you don't have to turn after, so I'm not sure why I even said it. But he's managed to stretch his advantage a little bit there. But Berto, as we've pretty much said it every week, that Renault is just so planted through all the corners. Just seems to gobble up all the time on Ziras, but then that BMW seems to stretch its legs on the straights.
Yeah, it's a great bit of versatility in the series. It means we can see those comparisons between the cars, as Ziras is really locking the brakes all over the place at the moment. He's still struggling with that final British Racing Drivers Club complex, as I'm going to call it. I thought that was going to be roll off the tongue a lot smoother than it did. The corners I'm referring to are Luffield, Brooklands and Priory, just before the end of the track, and they're coming around to finish that first lap at the moment. The gap at the front is just around half a second between Ziras and Berto, so he hasn't been able to eke out a massive gap. Berto's all over the back of him, and I'd hazard against to say there's going to be a battle on between these two at the moment. Where's
Yeah.
our man Resist? He's already dropped down a spot behind Brenton Foley, so he's in 5th. Not a good start for our race predictions so far.
Absolutely. So we're going to have to hope that the 4 cars ahead of him all fall off the track. Ziras seems to be pretty comfortable with the way he drives that car, just flinging it into every corner half sideways. But it introduces just a bit more element of risk, a little bit more opportunity for him to lose control and oversteer or slide off the track. So although he seems comfortable, it's not the optimum way to drive.
Yeah, especially if he keeps it up for the whole race, because if he wears those tyres through, it's going to make him a lot more susceptible to mistakes when he's doing exactly that. And Berto, being in that planted, we love calling it planted, it's basically ivy on this track. That Renault Laguna, he'll be there to pick up the pieces, I'm sure.
He will. Looking back down the field, Joshua Bagsy up 2 positions from his start, and he's got Nether, who's down 2 positions all over the back of him. So Bagsy with almost no preparation on this circuit, and you can tell goes off at Abbey, and Nether tries to slip up the inside as they go through that long right-hander and down the hill towards, do apologise, they're now coming down towards Abbey. That was Club that they went around. I'm still sort of trying to figure out what the track looks very similar from most angles, so you're gonna have to bear with me, viewers.
Yeah, that's one of my other gripes with flat circuits as well, is there's normally not too many landmarks that you can use to distinguish where you are on the track at any one time. Obviously with Silverstone, you've got a few of the buildings, you've got the bridge, the Racing Drivers Club, that sort of thing. But it's still pretty tough when everything's so flat, especially with, like a lot of those British circuits are being built around former World War II air bases, with Silverstone being the most prominent example of that. Fun fact about Silverstone and air, there's a great segue that I was introduced. I think it was the year 2000 British Grand Prix, Silverstone heliport, the helipad in the middle of the track, set the record, the world record, which still stands today for the most aircraft movements, takeoffs and landings.
My goodness. Do you know that stat off the top of your head?
I do, sadly.
And that stat is?
How many landings and takeoffs there are?
Numbers.
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
Thankfully, I do not. I'll look it up though. I'll get back to you.
That's fine. We're looking at Goofball Antics here down in 7th place. So him and Zarlinger both in their starting positions, but Goofball Antics putting the Zarlinger in his rookie season under quite a bit of pressure as they run down the Hanger Straight and into Stowe. It's quite a tricky braking zone sometimes to pull yourself up for, and Goofball Antics has done a little bit better than Zarlinger in that particular occasion. He's right on the back of him as they come down and into Club, and Goofball Antics he's a patient driver. He'll hang on your back bumper until you take yourself out of the race, and he can just swoop on through. So at the moment he's probably playing just a little bit of mind games with Zarlinger.
Just at the front here, I think Berto's made a little bit of an error because he's fallen into the clutches of Sam Smith in 3rd, and those two are having a really close battle while Ziras is a 2.5 clear of them at the front. So keep an eye on those two at the front in 2nd and 3rd as Sam Smith tries to claw some points up in that Peugeot 406 against Berto's Renault. It looks like he's a little bit under threat here. Those bumps through Maggots, Beckett's Chapel, Luffield, I'm not actually sure how this Renault goes through this Luffield bump. We're going to look now as he goes through. Doesn't seem to affect him too much. I think he's just taking it a little bit slowly, but you can see from the exterior angle just how much that bump affects the car.
You can almost hear it. It sounds like the revs drop when it goes into it. Much like my poor Mazda 6 when I go over a speed bump and a little bit too quickly and it chugs. Probably nowhere near as quick as this Renault Laguna, which is a depressing thing to say, but as you say, he's not pulling away from Sam Smith. Still about 0.5 of a second, and Ziras over a second out in front now. So Ziras just got his head down. We spoke to him last week, and he said that when he's got someone fast behind him, he just kind of doesn't look in his mirrors and focuses on his own race. And at the moment, seems to be working out for him.
Yep, cuts his mirrors out, a little bit of weight saving, no use looking back. That's how he's always done it, and it's definitely worked for him. He's been probably the quickest driver over the history of Apex Rear Wing. I'm only sort of familiar with the last 2 seasons. Undoubtedly. He's one of the mainstay veterans of Apex Rear Wing. He's fast in everything you stick him in, and we can see it here at the moment. He's currently leading this race by a fair margin.
Yeah, he is the main stain, and he's fast in whatever you stick him in. That's 2 things to put side by side. Brenton Foley has maintained that 4th position over Resist. Oop, do apologise. There he is on your screen now as they dip out of sight, heading down towards Abbey. So Resist our tip for the race win at the moment. Our horse is not performing as we would have hoped that it was.
Regular viewers of Apex Rear Wing will be familiar with our afflictions with the commentator's curse, especially when it comes to you, Mad Bird, and Resist.
Ooh.
Now, I'm not looking to point the finger this race because obviously we've both hedged our bets on the car currently sitting in 5th place, but geez, we don't really have much luck with the commentator's curse, do we?
No, especially me. I seem to have a good way of causing horrendous curses whenever I even look at another car, so I'm surprised something horrible hasn't happened so far. We're just seeing a replay here of Bagsy went a little bit deep at Abbey, and Tyrrell didn't need a second invitation to take that position away from him. So Tyrrell up into the final points paying position, although as I say that, Bagsy into the back of him. Oh, and Fruity Ping into the side of him as they go through Brooklands, and that's a little bit messy. What's happened to Fruity Ping? So he's going to rejoin back in 12th, and 13th place. And Tyrrell, it looks like, has gone off the track as well, so I'm not sure if he's got some damage. Just go back and see a replay of this. So Bagsy into the back of Tyrrell, and then Fruity Ping and Bagsy just collide, and then looks like Tyrrell just went wide all by himself and off into that gravel, which can be quite difficult to get out of sometimes. So unfortunately for him, he has dropped back into 13th place and the back of the grid, just as I was singing his praises. So there is a very timely reminder of my curse abilities.
Oh, have a look at the front here between Berto and Sam Smith. These two are right on each other. Sam Smith's just looking for a place to get past, but Berto is defending like his life depends on it. He's making that Renault Laguna as wide as he possibly can, and I'm trying to find as many cliches in auto racing commentary as I possibly can to describe this battle. But folks, just have a look at how close this is. Sam Smith's going to try and get the draft down. I think this is the hanger straight. No, it's not.
No, this is the run down into Abbey. Last time out, Sam Smith was 0.4 of a second faster than Berto on the last lap. Sorry, not last time out. That was Barons Hatch, which wouldn't be particularly relevant to Silverstone GP circuit. But Sam Smith seems to be reeling in Berto, and Berto just locking up there, you can see, going into Priory. So maybe he's cracking under the pressure a little bit. These guys do a lot of practice together, Berto and Sam Smith, of course, teammates last season in the DRMs, the two Pink Pigs. So they've got a lot of experience racing each other. Sam Smith seems to have dropped off a little bit just through that last corner complex.
Yeah, just a little bit. Maybe that's a consequence of how his car handles. And we're getting close to the halfway point of this race, and it's actually a 12-lap race.
It
according
is.
to the count at the top.
So
it's a 12-lap race, so you have to complete 9 laps to be registered as being classified.
So I think your information was correct, and the information that I have was incorrect. So, and that was before the broadcast that we discussed that. So, okay, that's another thing to fix in post. Goose Balantix has made that position over Zarlingier. It took a while, but he's managed to get the job done. So he's up into 6th place. And Zarlingier not going away, though. Still right on the back of that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, he's swarming all over the back of him as they exit through Chapel at the moment. And I reckon Zarlingier is going to have a shot at trying to get a draft behind that Alfa Romeo as they head down the hanger straight. Meanwhile, up ahead of those two, Resist is still pretty close to the back of Brenton Foley as well. So that's a good sign as Brenton Foley tips it into snow. Gives Resist a little bit of a buffer, or a little bit of a chance to catch up to him, I should say, as we see a little bit of a lock up ahead of them.
Yeah, Brenton Foley, that just seems to be his driving style in these and all cars, is flick it in sideways and just hope he can hold it. And more often than not, he seems to be able to. But it isn't paying off for him right now as they head on down to Abbey. Resist is alongside him, or near enough, but has dropped back. So a decent exit there from Brenton Foley, but Resist has clawed back some time during this lap. He's now only a couple of tenths of a second behind the BMW as they come down and through the bridge, heading on down towards Priory and the final corner complex. And Brenton Foley, you can see the car just does not look as comfortable or anywhere near as planted as that Honda Accord of the Black Flag Industries driver Resist. And as they come into Luffield, Resist closes right up, so he's only a couple of car lengths behind, and he's going to have a slipstream all the way down to the first corner.
Yeah, they're a little bit far off the group ahead of them. It's about 6.5 seconds between Brenton Foley in 4th and Sam Smith up in 3rd. So I don't think either of those two are going to have much of a chance. They get pretty close there as they run down into Cops. They're not going to really have a chance to get up into the pointy end of the podium spots of this race. But if Resist is clever, he'll stay where he is and just sort of bide his time. Either wait for a chance late in the race to make his move on Brenton Foley, or wait for him to make a mistake, because we have seen, unfortunately, as talented a driver as Brenton Foley is, he can struggle with cars he's not comfortable with, and there's every chance he could just make an error, dip a wheel in the dirt and spin out. So that's something that the Resist will be looking to take advantage of very quickly if he can.
It will. It looked as if he got checked up behind him going through that first turn. He was trying to keep too close to him through Stowe, I believe. No, sorry, Cops. And it's a very fast corner, so he probably had to lift out of it a little bit. He's lost out in the end. He's about 0.7 of a second behind Brenton Foley now. Although Brenton Foley had a bit of a tank slapper on the exit of Cops, or on the exit of Stowe. My goodness. And that's allowed Resist to claw back a little bit of time. Back at the pointy end, Sam Smith is now only 0.2 of a second behind Berto as they run on down towards Abbey, and he's gluing the back of that Renault to the front of that Peugeot, running on down and into the bridge. So this battle is not going away. We've got 5 laps left to run.
Yeah, these two have been scrapping pretty much all race, and there's no sign of them slowing up at the moment as they go through Brooklyn. And up ahead, as a result of that, Ziras is almost 4 seconds ahead of this pack. They've just ticked over 4 seconds ahead now. So he's pulling up a massive gap, and he isn't really having to work for it much at all. So doesn't need his rear views at all. He's just putting in hard, consistent, fast laps, and Ziras is cruising to what looks to be a pretty easy win here in race 1. But meanwhile, we've still got this big scrap. He's just posted the fastest lap, as a matter of fact. 1 minute 57.36 Ziras in that BMW at the front of the field. So he's by all means the fastest driver on track right now.
So Resist has managed to get that position done over Brenton Foley while we were watching that battle at the front. And in so doing, while that's been happening, Goofball Antics has decided that he wants to possibly buy his way into this particular battle as well. And Zarlingier is not too far behind him, so we could very easily have a 4-car scrap for the 4th position in the very near future.
It was a big moment for Brenton Foley on the exit of Priory on the run into Brooklands. He just had a massive tank slapper and almost spun onto the outside of the track there. He was able to catch it and stay out of the fence and stay on the black stuff, but obviously Ziras is able to fly straight past him, and now Brenton Foley finds himself in the clutches of Goofball Antics. He's trying to get a draft down the hanger straight into Stowe, but he's a little bit far back at the moment, so Brenton Foley should stay fit.
He should.
Big slide from there, though. He should. Yeah. I say that, and he kicks the arse out one more time, and it's like, oh, geez, mate, don't do this to me. But now Goofball's all over the back of him. There's less than 2/10 in it. Goofball's having a peek into the Vale chicane, but nothing doing there.
Yeah, Goofball
sitting back licking his lips.
He definitely is. He's going num 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 num. Goofball Antics does like to do that. He likes to stick his nose out just going into braking zones, remind you that he's there, and hope to put you off a little bit as you go into the braking zone. So it could definitely pull off with Brenton Foley ahead of him. I thought he was going to run into the back of him there, but he managed to avoid it. Gets a much better run through the Abbey corner as they head on down and into the bridge. He's only 2/10 of a second behind Brenton Foley. And then going into this last corner complex, that Alpha seems to be a lot more planted, well, I keep saying that word, than the BMW ahead of him. Meanwhile, Zarlingier, as you say, really not too far behind if these two come to blows.
He's run wide there through Luffield, so I think you've stuffed him there a little bit. But I'll
there's my curse.
There's your curse, but I'll let you off on this one because he's still in 7th position. But yeah, Goofball Antics has been saying in the initial stages of this season that he was struggling to get fully comfortable with the Alpha as well. But I was talking to him just before this race, and obviously before the season, all the drivers had a chance to test and sample all of the cars as Brenton Foley goes really wide through Cops, and I think Goofball's going to try and sweep up. They're side by side as they run down to Maggots, I should say, not Maccas. Brenton Foley has the line, and he will stay in 5th at the moment, but that's at the moment, I should say. He's sliding all over the place. That place is as slippery as a butcher's block, and Brenton Foley is barely keeping 4 wheels in a straight line. Jeez, he's leaving black stuff all over the place, all over the black stuff, and Goofball Antics is now side by side, and he will have the line by the time they get to Stowe. And look at Zarlingier. He's in the draft with Brenton Foley as well. So this could be a double pass here, but I'm not going to say anything now because you don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
All right, Goofball Antics has made the pass happen. Well done to Goofball Antics there. But Brenton Foley is now in the clutches of Zarlingier. who is currently sitting in P7, and Brenton Foley is just having a shock of a race at the moment. He keeps dropping that back through the standings, and now he's got that second Black Flag Industries Racing Honda Accord up his rear bumper.
He does. Yeah, he got that position off the start, and since then it's sort of been a damage limitation, and he's been slowly slipping down, and Zarlinger missed his braking point entirely by the looks of it. Dove for the inside. I don't think that was anywhere near intentional, and he does let out of it to give Brenton Foley a bit of a break. As you were saying, he was going through Macca's. I thought Brenton Foley was about to put it in the fence, and if I were him, I'd probably do a quick run to Macca's in the few laps that we have left, had he DNF'd, but luckily he did not. And he is still in 6th position, but defending grimly from Zarlinger behind, who, I must say, doing very well in his first season. I'm not sure how much experience he's got in sim racing, but he certainly looks comfortable out there.
Yeah, he's definitely getting more comfortable as each race goes on. We can often see with some of these newer guys that the more races they do, they really start to get up to speed with Apex rear wing and sim racing, and they get comfortable with the cars. And Zarlinger is doing quite well to go toe-to-toe with Brenton Foley right now. He almost made contact with him earlier as he locked his brakes into the braking zone, but he's still pressing on at the moment, and no damage to either of those cars, thankfully.
Thank God. So we're on lap 10 here of 12. Ziras, the brother of Resist, has a 7-second lead there or thereabouts over second place man Berto. And Berto is just about 0.4 of a second ahead of Sam Smith, his former teammate. So these two seem to be stuck together. I haven't seen that gap go any wider than a second. And Sam Smith seems to have a much better braking zone there going into club, but loses out on the exit. That Peugeot does not seem to have the legs compared to the Renault, which surprises me. They are both French, so probably run on cheese or something. But perhaps the Renault is running on blue cheese or something with a bit more odor and potency to it.
I think the Renault is running on Cabernet, and the Peugeot is running on Sauv Blanc. So different characteristics that we're seeing here, but they're able to go toe for toe. I've got the statistics here on that Silverstone heliport fact I was bringing up earlier.
Oh, fantastic! Yes, please.
Now, I want to preface this by saying it's marked as citation needed on Wikipedia, so take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, folks. But it was, in fact, the 1999 British Grand Prix, not 2000. And during the day, from dawn till dusk on race day, there were 4,200 documented aircraft movements, with a movement being either a takeoff or a landing. And
Jesus.
for all of you, that's quite a lot. And for all of you aerosexuals out there, they use solely visual flight rules. There was no radar or any electronic navigation aids involved. So that's pretty insane, isn't it?
That seems pretty impressive to me. Oh, sorry, I've just got footage here of Tyrrell, who's missing a front bumper. It happened a while ago. We can't see a replay of it, but
and a rear bumper as well.
And a rear bumper. So that Jeff Vader Racing Datsun just barely holding itself together with duct tape and baling wire at the moment. But he is still going to finish the race by the looks of it. We've got 2 laps left to run. That's an incredible amount of aircraft. Sorry, I interrupted myself. And I imagine that one of our runners, Joshua Bagsy, who's actually in training to be a air traffic controller, he would have had a absolute mare trying to deconflict all those aircraft taking off and landing.
Well, just have a look at the battle for 6th here at the moment. Brenton Foley's getting all crossed up, trying to keep Zarlinger behind him. And I'd say that he's going to try and make another pass pretty soon. He has a look into the Vale chicane, but he's not able to get anything done this time around. But we've got 2 laps left. Things are going to start getting pretty squeaky. This is about the time when pressures are getting really piled on. And if moves have to be made, they have to be made now.
Yeah, Sam Smith, we just saw a second ago, was very, very close behind Berto going through the Vale chicane, but he has dropped off a bit through the rest of the lap. So he might have the oil can out, but the squeaking isn't going away, and he isn't able to rein that gap in by the looks of it. He can stick himself onto the back of that Renault, but he just doesn't have that extra gear that he needs to get the position done. He's been about 4 or 5 tenths a second behind that Renault for, I reckon, the last 5 or 6 laps.
Goofball as well has been pretty quick in the Alfa Romeo. He's gotten really comfortable with that car now, and he's pretty close to the back of Resist at the moment. Resist is currently eking out a gap as they cross the line to start the final lap. But that could be another battle that we might see shaping up towards the end of this race. So they're starting to pair off at the moment. Second and verse third, fourth verse fifth, sixth verse seventh at the moment, and there may be some more battles happening down in the back of the field. But we do have Tyrrell sitting in his garage. So he's taking a little bit of time before race 2 to go to the wreckers and get some more bumpers, and he'll be back for race 2. But for this race, he has DNF'd, which leaves us with 12 runners.
Yep, he did classify though. He did finish the 9 laps, so he will start from pole in the second race. So get to see how he handles that, where he can go from there. At the front, it looks as if the battle has the stings come out of it a bit. Berto's got a 6/10 of a second gap to Sam Smith behind, and ahead of them is Ziras, 7.5 seconds up the road, heading on down to Abbey as we speak, just shooting out of sight and then back into sight under that Intel hoarding. So a pretty faultless run from Ziras.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised, to be honest. Like, we know Ziras is a good driver, but I was really concerned seeing how he was treating those tyres through practice and qualifying, but he doesn't seem to be having any issues at all. I'm not sure what his lap times have been like the past few laps. His last lap was a 157.66 and his best is a 157.36. So he's very consistent as well, which is phenomenal. It's a fantastic performance for Ziras as he comes through Luffield now. He hits that bump for one final time here in race 1. He's got a gap of nearly 8 seconds over second place at the moment, and he is going to come through the final corner now. He's making his way to the finish line. The checkered flag is out, and Ziras takes the victory for race 1 here at Silverstone International. What a race from him. 8 seconds the gap there. We've got plenty of time to talk about second and third before they get there. There's Brenton Foley. Nope, there's Berto. Never mind. We'll fix that one in post. Crossing the line in second with Sam Smith not too far behind him in P3. So there's our podium sitters. Ziras, Berto, and thankfully Sam Smith, who was able to get that race done without any issues.
Yeah,
Resist crosses the line in fourth, is able to hold off Goofball Antics, and Brenton Foley was also able to hold off that other Honda of Zalangier.
Yep. And Roadhog's going to come home a lonely 8th in his starting position, so I guess consistent at least. Netherelmian's going to come home in his starting position of 9th, and Decimage is going to come home in his starting position of 10th, and that rounds out
the pattern.
That rounds out the point sitters.
I had to break the pattern, but it's currently looking to be like Josh Bagsy and Fruity Ping are going to make up positions from their starts as well, unless Josh Bagsy stuffs it now, because Tyrrell started in 11th in this race, and Josh Bagsy is up to 11th where he was. So in his pretty much first laps in anger at Silverstone, he didn't really have a chance to practice, qualify, anything like that. He had 1 lap in warm-up. He's been able to come across the line without any major mistakes, apart from that brief little incident we saw earlier with the back markers there. And he's going to come across the line in 11th and take home...
No points.
No points. I've just realised not using the same point system. We'll fix that one in post, ladies and gentlemen.
My God, for giving me a lot of work in post.
Oh, I'd hate to be the editors for this broadcast.
But it does mean that Josh Bagsy will be starting from the second row of the grid for the second race. So that will assist him with maybe getting some points in the second race. But for the first race, Matty, I believe that you have got our podium sitters here in the box.
We certainly do have the podium sitters, and I'm going to start with third place, Sam Smith. Sam, congratulations. And given the issues that we saw you were having in practice, qualifying, and even in the warm-up of this race, pretty lucky to have been able to finish on the podium. What's been happening, and have you got it sorted out?
Issues is in my ping, or?
Yeah, because we saw you having some lag spikes still through qualifying and whatnot. So
yeah, no, I was going to say my driving was all right, but yeah, well, it's obviously okay. Yeah, I wasn't pinging out that time.
No, it didn't seem to be doing so at all. So yeah, your driving was absolutely phenomenal, and you were able to hold on to the back of Berto pretty much the whole time. How was the Peugeot handling around the track in terms of, in comparison to that Renault?
I was really good, but I couldn't get the run that Berto. He just told me how to do the run onto that straight, onto that hanger straight. I was taking the wrong line into that corner, so I was catching up massively on entry into that corner, but then when on exit of that corner, there was no way I was going to get near him, so that's where I'd lose all the time. But in the twisty stuff, I was okay, so I was quite happy.
Yeah, definitely. You've got a very good reason to be happy. You're in P3, got a podium for this race. You'll be starting near the back of the grid, so hopefully we can see you carving up through the field for the reverse grid race. Best of luck for that one. We go on to our second place finisher, Berto, in the Renault Laguna. Berto, well done, but there was a big gap between yourself and Ziras at the front. Were you struggling with the Renault, or was that BMW just too quick, do you reckon?
BMW was just too quick. It's a good track for the BMWs here, but then in practice I'd found that if I pushed the engine too hard it'd blow up pretty much every race, so can't say I was redlining it the entire race. So yeah, I was happy with the result in the end.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't really considered either, making sure you can manage the revs and keep the engine in good nick as well. Are you going to push a little bit harder for race 2, or are you going to keep it conservative?
See how we go. Need to get through the field first and actually finish one of these second races one of these days. So just finishing, I think, is the aim for race 2 for me at the moment.
Well, it's a pretty wide track here at Silverstone, so we've got plenty of real estate to play with when you're trying to get around the field. So best of luck and congratulations again on that P2 finish. And now our winner, Ziras. You've extended your lead at the championship at the front once again, and it just looked like a cakewalk for you. How was the car? You looked like you were sliding all over the place in qualifying, and I wasn't sure if you were going to keep those tyres in good nick. How are they by the end of the race?
They went away a little bit, and then I got one brilliant lap in that I screwed up on the last corner. So they weren't too bad, the tyres, but I think I finally found a setup that I'm happy with, that gelled with this track as well. Like, it's still not good when you're deep on the brakes, but around this track, it matters more that you carry the speed anyway, so it wasn't affecting me too much.
So can we expect you to make one of your characteristic charges through the field on the first lap of the reverse grid?
It's a very wide track, so probably yes.
Alrighty, looking forward to it, mate. Congratulations once again to Ziras, our race winner, and to the rest of our podium sitters as well. Madbird, what a race that was.
Yeah, absolutely. That was some pretty ding-dong battles through the midfield, and Berto under a lot of pressure for most of the race, so never sort of knew what was going to happen. Unfortunately, our horse, Resist, seemed to fall off the track a little bit. He did finish in 4th, so really not that bad a finish after all, but considering how much we hyped him up, perhaps we gave him a communal commentator's curse.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was fearing, so I might have to rehash my prediction strategy for race 2. We're just going to have a second warm-up session, I believe, before the race starts.
That's it, yeah, so we might as well take this opportunity to have a quick pit stop of our own, and we will see you on the other side of this little break. Don't you go anywhere, or, you know, since you're watching a video on YouTube, just skip ahead about a couple of minutes.
Here we are, approaching the hay plains. We've got Evie, or Goofball Antics is driving, it's happening. And on the other side there is Madbird, it's me. And Stairs here, repping in the back seat. Behind us, oh, let's not worry about that magazine. we got Resist and Ziras in the front there. Resist driving. How have you felt about the trip so far, Heath?
It's been good. It's a bit of an early start. It's nice and cool in here, and that's all that matters. Good company.
Yeah, it's a pretty hot day today, isn't it, Madbird?
Feels weird being a passenger in my own car.
We're 6 hours in, about 7 hours to go. See you in Bathurst.
Oh my goodness! How are you feeling after that turn there, Heath? Or that not turn, but that truck turning?
Truck turn?
Yeah, that looked like it unsettled you slightly.
Are there any cucumbers back those stairs? Because that'd be the only thing cooler than me right now.
Oh, he's done it.
Nah, this coke's pretty cool.
What an absolute legend. So we're on the way to West Wyalong. We've got assorted snacks with our walkie-talkie, and we don't have a rubbish bag. Do we, Stairs?
No.
I appreciate it.
We don't have a rubbish bag. That was an oversight.
So the marching order is the same as before. I believe Phil is still driving in the other car.
Yep.
We are about 400 k's now from Bathurst, and it's all looking very exciting. I'm very keen, and I'm really happy that Alistair has these very loud walkie-talkies. Fuck.
Do you want to check in with the other cars, see if they've got anything to say to the band?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man, car to Fabmobile, do you read?
What?
how's your drive going?
Oh, how's the drive going? Everything going well on your part?
Yep, it sure is the countryside.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong there.
Good talk.
Good talk.
Anyway, good talking to you.
So that's about it. We're on our way, and we'll be in Bathurst this evening. I'm very excited to stretch my legs. Yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Silverstone for the round 5 of season 9 of Apex Rear Wing. We're sitting in the warm-up session, just waiting to go racing for the reverse grid race. I am Liam, also known as Madbird, and I'm joined in the commentary box by Matty Dunlop. How's it going, Matty?
I would say it's going all right, but as for those of you who were here last week, as we were into the closing stages of our broadcast, we began a slight debate as to what was the better Arnott's cream biscuit. Now, what you didn't hear is the fierce debate that I've been having with a few people on my Facebook post in the days prior to that about my choice, which is the Kingston, which I feel is a superior biscuit. And I went as far to say as the Monte Carlo is the worst biscuit in the packet, and that ruffled the feathers of many, many people, including yourself, Madbird. So
rightfully so, I'd say.
And I thought, why don't we settle this with a poll, as all battles are normally settled with polls, because due to social distancing, we can't travel in fist fight. So our good friend Stairs, who is not with us tonight, set up a straw poll, and we ended up getting a hell of a lot of votes on it.
That's a bit of an understatement.
Between the Monte Carlo and the Kingston, 336 people in total voted on this poll, had their say. Thank you for participating in democracy, folks. We appreciate your patronage. So I'm just having a look at the results now, and Kingston registered 154 votes, but was bested by the Monte Carlo with 182. So it was 54.1% over 45.8. And I guess I'm going to have to concede defeat here.
Yeah, I think it's I've missed a trick, really. I've got it here on the screen for us. I really missed a trick not naming this the Apex Rear Wing Better Arnott's Cream Biscuit Apex Rear Wing poll. Apex Rear Wing. Tune in on youtube.com/user/Apex Rear Wing for the results poll. Apex Rear Wing Arnott's Cream Biscuit, because my goodness, yeah, almost 340 votes. That's an incredible turnout, and if we could have captured that, we would have had at least 2 more viewers tonight. So I'm quite happy that the superior biscuit that is the Monte Carlo did win out. Notice I say the better Arnott's Cream Biscuit. I'm not under any... I don't believe either of them is the best Arnott's Cream Biscuit. How about you, Matty?
Well, I do think the Kingston is the best. But is there a particular biscuit in that tray that you prefer over both of those?
I mean, are we talking just cream biscuits or biscuits in general?
We'll go biscuits in general, actually, because we'll open this discussion up to everything you can find in the supermarket.
Open the floodgates. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the chocolate ripple myself. I'm a big fan of the chocolate ripple. If we're talking cream biscuits, I'm a big fan of the shortbread cream. Monte Carlo's up there. Chocolate Monty's, if you listen to the Automobilista Supercars Championship race last night, Stairs and I had a bit of a discussion as well. It's been a contentious topic, and we came to the conclusion that the chocolate Monty is kind of it's alright biscuit, so I definitely wouldn't put that at the top. Of course, if we're throwing it open to everything, then mint slices and Tim Tams, they've got to be in with a shot for the top, surely.
Personally, a lot of people are going to hate me for this, and I've had many contentious opinions on biscuits, so I'm not going to stop. I'm not a huge fan of mint chocolate as a concept. I'm sure the mint slice is a wonderful biscuit for those who enjoy it, but it's just not my thing. The Tim Tam for me is where it's at, especially the double coats, because you can bite the corners off and drink a hot chockey through them, and that's living.
You know what? It might ostracize me from my community. I've never actually done a Tim Tam slam, and
to be honest, neither have I. I can never get it to work.
I was just thinking, because like I've thought about doing it in the past, but I've always figured like, do you need to suck out the innards in order to do so, or does the hot drink melt the innards? Like, is that how it works?
Yeah, so the idea is you have to use a double coat because you get the extra strength from the chocolate coating around the outside.
Of course.
And when you drink the hot chocolate, if it's hot enough, it'll just sort of disintegrate the innards, and you'll sort of drink this lumpy mixture of hot chocolate and Tim Tam, which sounds disgusting.
You're not making it sound appealing.
I've made it work once or twice, and it's quite nice, but I also think it's a little bit more effort than it's worth. So honestly, if I have a Tim Tam in front of me, I'm just going to eat the thing anyway. I can't really control myself. I've had to stop buying them, to be honest.
Absolutely. I disagree with you on mint chocolate. I think it's a fantastic concept. But as you say, you have controversial opinions about biscuits, which is one hell of a sentence. We've got 3 minutes left to run in this warm-up session. So, as it stands, the pole position is going to be Tyrrell, who DNF'd, but he DNF'd after he was classified in the first race, with Fruity Ping, Bagsy, and Desamaj filling out the remaining of the two front rows. So, what do you think? What do you think the chances are of Ziras making his run through the field as you spoke to him during the interview about?
So he'll be starting from 13th, so he'll have to make up. So this is basically just going to be a question of how many places can Ziras make up on that first lap. And I reckon he is going to get himself to fourth.
Fourth by the end of the first lap?
He's been a rocket off the starts. He's just got this uncanny ability to find a gap in traffic ahead of him and just put his car there and just carve through it. And it's been almost superhuman what he can do on the initial laps of the reverse grid races in the last few. So I'd say he's going to make fourth without any doubt, and he'll be probably the best positioned pointy end driver at the end of the first lap, because there aren't too many of those drivers in the upper echelon of the championship standings who have fallen back or had a bad race last time. When I say last, I mean race one. So Desamaj might stick up the front for a little bit for the first few laps, but I think Ziras will best him pretty quickly. And I'm going to go back to the safe bet, because the dangerous bet really didn't work, and I'm going to put Ziras down for my W for race 2.
Very good. Yeah, that's not that. Unlike your opinions on biscuits, your opinions on Ziras are non-controversial. I'm not going to disagree with you. I think Ziras has got a very good chance of being up there. I'm very excited to see if your tip of fourth by the end of the first lap is correct. And as you say, the pointy end of the grid drivers sort of all kept their noses clean during the first race, whereas the last couple of weeks we've had Sam Smith in particular having some issues and starting towards the front of the grid for the reverse grid, which has given him a bit of a bonus. And as we saw last week, he nearly translated that into a race win, but unfortunately Lewis Wedding had something to say about that. Lewis Wedding not here this week though, but Sam Smith will be starting from 10th place. So that is a lot of ground to make up in a car that isn't particularly lightning quick, regardless of how fast Sam himself is.
Yeah, but you've got plenty of time to make it up to the front. 12 laps doesn't sound like a huge amount, but it's a long track, so you've still got quite a bit of distance to cover before you have to meet the checkered flag. So even just sort of sitting back and just being patient with getting through the traffic is probably the best strategy to go, and just hope you don't get caught up in any unfortunate happenstance.
Yeah, and hope is the correct term to use. Sometimes when you're forcing your way up through the grid, well, you're hopefully not forcing your way up through the grid, but as you're scything your way up through the grid on one of these reverse grid races. Some of them can get a little bit impatient, a little bit punchy. Whoa! Speaking of punchy, we've got Tyrrell's car on fire in the...
Quite literally, folks.
Quite literally on fire. You can see there, I'm not sure if he can survive that particular blaze. Let's get an internal view. Yep, so that is definitely a fire. So that's unfortunate for Tyrrell, but it looks as if he has survived that particular conflagration, which is good news for all involved. But we have just ticked over into the second race session, so we will be going racing in just a few moments' time. Here is the information for race 2. So 12 laps. It's got the correct amount of laps this time around. 61.7 kilometers reverse grid race. So it is the results of the previous race that have determined the grid for this race. The previous Silverstone winner was indeed the race 1 winner, which was Ziras. Can he do it again? Side up through the field here at Silverstone. We've just got everyone forming up on the grid, and we've got Tyrrell in a very particularly jaunty angle, must be said, sitting in his grid slot. But Matty, I will leave it to you once we have got everyone out on the track to run through the grid. And surprisingly, and he's just eased his car back down, so he's let the hydraulics out, and he's back all 4 wheels on the ground. So very well done there to Tyrrell.
In the wise words of Murray Walker, there is nothing wrong with his car except the fact that it's on fire. But we now see it at the front of the grid. Fire extinguished, burns painted over on the car. That glorious green luster has been restored. Just waiting for all the cars to come out on the grid, and we got them. So we've got our rolling start now, just making our way around for the formation lap. And Tyrrell, in the Jeff Vader Racing Nissan Primera, will be starting from pole position, having finished in 13th place in race 1. Next to him on the grid will be Fruity Ping on the front row in that beautiful number 11 BM Dick, the BM Willie as I like to call it. Josh Bagsy starting in the poker racing. That one took me at least 3 attempts. Poker racing split.
We'll fix it in post.
We will fix that in post. Thank you very much, Mad Bird. So he's starting from 3rd on the grid, and he'll be looking to make a few spots up in the early running. Decimage in the Pennison Oils Racing Peugeot has been normally a pretty quick competitor in Apex Rear Wing. Hasn't found super success in the Super Tours, but today could be his day. We'll see what he can do on these first initial laps. Another Elmian for the Outworld Racing team in his Nissan Primera will be starting from 5th next to Roadhog in that all-wheel drive Audi out of P6 with the 4-wheel drive. So we'll kick it on his launch and see what he can do. Starting from the exact same spot he finished the last race, Zarlingier in 7th. We know he was quick because he was challenging Brenton Foley last time out. Let's see what he can do. Brenton Foley, the man himself, will be starting in his BMW from P8 on the grid next to him. Behind them, we've got Goofball Antics in the Alfa Romeo, as it's often referred, for Scuderia Proto Anomaly. With Resist, Zarlingier's teammate for Black Flag Industries Racing. After that 4th place finish, he'll be starting from 10th this time around, hoping to cut through the field, as is everyone, of course, and get a good position. He'll be 10th, of course, being the lowest points scoring spot you can get in these races. And starting below those, we've got Sam Smith, who finished 3rd in race 1 out of 11th. Berto in the Renault in 12th. And Ziras, our race winner and championship leader, in plumb last 13. And we've already made our predictions. I'm pretty confident that Ziras is going to be able to cut through the field, get to 4th position by the end of lap 1. You can already chalk that into your record books, folks, because that's going to be fact. And he's probably going to win the race as well. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad race. It's going to be very exciting, as it always is here at Apex Rear Wing, especially with these Super Series. The racing's been fantastic the last couple of times out. Silverstone's a great track to put a good race on, especially with the reverse grid. All the ingredients are in the mix. We're just going to get these lights on, get these lights out, get the cars down the grid, stir the broth a little bit, get the heat on, and we will be cooking, folks. We're just starting to grid up now, and get ready for what will be a cracking race at around about the half point of the season.
Exactly the half point of the season, Eden.
Exactly the half point indeed. So after this, we'll have 5 rounds left to go. And let's not worry about those 5 rounds just yet. We've got everyone starting to form up on the grid. Speaking of aggressive grid spots, look at Josh Bagsy up in third at the moment, and Decimage next to him. They're both tilted in. At this rate, they're just going to slam straight into each other off the start. Everyone's gridded up now. Lights are on. And we're underway. It's a poor start from Tyrrell there at the front. He's going to get swamped pretty much straight away by Josh Bagsy. He makes his way through the middle. Although Tyrrell's still with the lead at the moment. Fruity Ping's in second. Josh Bagsy splits the middle. He's trying to go around the outside of Fruity Ping into turn one. Josh Bagsy gets the whole shot. Decimage cuts through as well. Netherrealmian as well. Just trying to see. Ziras has made his way past up half the field already. He's having a great run so far at the back of the field. Keep your eyes on him. Fruity Ping has a bit of a shortcut there across. No contact so far. Tyrrell's been spun almost. As soon as I said no contact, he got hit. There's that commentator's curse. Tyrrell is in the fence. He is out. He is well off. Josh Bagsy is leading this race onto the hanger straight. There's a lot of contact in the midfield, Madbird.
There is indeed. Excellently called, Matty. Fantastic start from Bagsy, scything his way up through the middle. Ziras currently challenging with Brenton Foley and taking 6th place, coming through the Stowe corner. So he's already almost up to our predicted position of 4th. I would get a replay of what happened to Tyrrell. I believe there was a bit of a tussle with perhaps, I think it was Roadhog. Hopefully it was Roadhog, or otherwise I've just dipped him in it. But regardless, Tyrrell is way down in the standings. He's actually only just gotten back onto the track. So very bad luck there for Tyrrell, probably nursing a bit of damage. At the front, Decimage has taken a huge dive at the Abbey corner. It has not worked out for him. He's lost that position back to Bagsy again, who continues to lead this race.
Yeah, he's almost lost the position to Nether as well, but he's still currently sitting in second. And the field is so tightly packed as they go through Brooklands at the moment. It just packs in like sardines. You just think something's going to happen here, and something has happened. Nether's been punted almost off the track. He's lost his rear bumper. He's still in the black stuff, but he's lost a ton of spots there. And then 2 sets of 3 wide going through Luffield. Let's see how they act around this bump here as we've got cars running side by side. Everyone seems to be pretty well sorted. Tyrrell's trying to catch up to the back of the field at the moment. Ziras is down to 8th, so he's lost a few spots there as well, and he's definitely not going to be 4th as they cross the start-finish line to start lap 2. Ziras P8 at the moment. He's still made up 5 spots from where he began this race, but he's not having the perfect charge we're all envisioning. And this track might not be as wide as we thought, but in saying that, Sam Smith is 3rd.
I was just about to say, Ziras might not have had the start we were expecting, but Sam Smith has had the start no one was expecting. He's up to 3rd, 8 positions from his starting slot.
Nether's been spun.
Oh, and it looks as if Roadhog is also off the track, so a little bit of chaos reigning, as it always does in one of these reverse grid races. Ziras has finally reached the heralded position of 4th, as Sam Smith, Decimage and Josh Bagsy are line astern pretty much, coming down into Stowe corner. This can't end well, can it? As Sam Smith tries to cut up the inside. Is he going to get the whole shot? He's gotten past Decimage and he's up into 1st place. Bagsy up alongside him as they come down towards the Vale chicane. Bagsy sticks it up the inside, manages to take the position but goes off the track, and Sam Smith through. A little bit of contact between Decimage and Bagsy, and Sam Smith is up into the lead of this race.
Look at Ziras swarming all over the back of them as well in P4 right now. He's charging around the outside of Decimage as they run down into Abbey at the moment. He won't be able to get a huge amount done from there, but he's put himself in a position to make the cut back into what would be another corner where he's out of position. So Ziras is just trying to find a way up onto the inside of Decimage as they go through this complex here. It's a pretty tricky part to try and get a pass nailed here. So he may dart to have a look. No, he's just going to sit behind at the moment with a big slide as he's trying to get past Decimage and that Peugeot 406, who in turn is trying to get past Bagsy and just shoves him to the outside of the track. That wasn't a massive contact, but it was enough to get Bagsy up on 2 wheels, and they're 3 wide. Decimage has cost himself a lot of time. Fruity Ping is going to take advantage, and look at Ziras. He's up the inside of Bagsy. He's going to have 2nd place by the time they get to Luffield, or out of Luffield onto the main straight, as I should say, and Ziras is up to P2 with a gap of almost 3 seconds to Sam Smith up ahead. The chase is on.
It is. Decimage and Bagsy, meanwhile, ding, resume their battle. Bump drafting is the term I was looking for there, into turn 1. As we see in the background, Roadhog up on 2 wheels. Decimage and Bagsy side by side, running on down to Maggots and Beckett's. He can't go side by side through there, and indeed they don't. Decimage takes the 3rd position from Bagsy, but Bagsy is still looking like he wants to fight back for that position. So considering how little practice he's had, Bagsy doing very well here in this reverse grid race. Sam Smith currently with a 2.8 second lead over Ziras. How long can he eke that out for? There's still 9 laps to run in this race.
3 wide behind them there as they go towards Stowe. It looks like Fruity Ping is trying to split the middle of Resist. And Berto, there's a little bit of slippery action there. Resist is going to get the whole shot between those guys. And now he's going to be all over the back of Bagsy as they make the run down towards the Vale chicane. What an absolute pack of cars we've got going on here.
Absolutely. Fruity Ping goes for the inside to defend and then... Oh, no! And so he's been tagged by Resist as he was going through the corner and then has hit Berto by the looks of it. Let's go see if we can get a replay of that. So... gets caught up on the inside by Bagsy, and then, yeah, Resist straight into him. Didn't really have anywhere to go, and unfortunately spins straight into Berto. Hopefully no damage there for either car. Although, as you can see, Fruity Ping is missing his rear bumper and is down in 11th place.
So back to this battle for 5th position at the moment. Resist is currently leading this train of cars through Bridge. You've got Brenton Foley right behind him, followed by Goofball, Berto, and Zarlingo, who are right next to each other. Berto just making a pass there. But Zarlinga will attempt to cut back as they go through Brooklands, and he will get it done, but he runs it a little bit wide. Berto's going to shoot right back through.
And Roadhog is still buying into this battle as well. Tries to go down the inside of Zarlinga at Luffield. That's an incredibly good corner there from Roadhog. Nothing but grip on the inside of the track. Sam Smith sets the fastest lap with a 1:58.4, which is not blisteringly quick, but it is still the fastest lap so far. Ziras has not yet matched it, although he has cut his deficit to Sam Smith at the front down to 1.8 seconds. So down a second from last lap. How well can Sam defend?
Yeah, we're still a little bit shy of the race pace we were seeing in race 1. But as the drivers get more comfortable again, we will see those lap times start to tumble, especially if Ziras gets past Sam Smith, because as we say, as is tradition every week here at Apex Rear Wing, we like to make mention of the fact that Sam Smith performs very well with a carrot dangled in front of him. The carrot being, of course, in the form of a driver positioned in front of him where Sam Smith can gauge his driving line, he can gauge his technique, he can sort of, he likes chasing, is a much simpler way of saying that. And he's currently leading the way, and his gap is falling.
Sorry to cut across you there. Bagsy just out-braking himself going into Stowe. Very nearly took out Goofball Antics. Only just pulled himself up, so he is going way down the timing screens as we watch, and nearly has some contact with Zarlinga as well. So his lack of experience on this track is starting to show out. Meanwhile, Resist is sitting pretty up in 4th place, and he is still 0.7 of a second ahead of Brenton Foley, and he's slowly reeling in Decimage, who's still sitting in that 3rd position. So if he manages to finish there, it will be his first podium finish for this season. And Decimage isn't unknown when it comes to a cheeky podium during a reverse grid race. He did plenty of them in the stock V8 cars, and he's very much looking like he's wanting a podium position this time around. The gap at the front down to a second. Sorry to cut across you, go ahead.
He's got that Peugeot dialed in, as does Sam Smith, but Ziras is, as you said, really chasing that car, and he posts the fastest lap. It's a 1:57.1. That's by far the quickest lap we've seen so far here tonight, and that really shows you can see that in the gap between the two cars now. It's purely academic. There's nothing between them, and that's a phenomenal lap. There's really no other way about it. He's really just clawed back a whole second.
1.3 seconds faster than Sam Smith Ziras was on that previous lap, so that BMW is blisteringly quick in comparison to the Peugeot, and he might even have the job done going down the Hangar Straight here. If he gets a slipstream, he is slowly edging closer. You can see it doesn't look like he's going to be close enough to have a go into Stowe, but Sam Smith going defensive in the center of the track and goes deep by the looks of it. He's scared himself right off the track, and Ziras swoops through and into the lead. Sam Smith is still there, sort of alongside his rear wheels, and he's going to go for the inside down at the Vale chicane, take that position back, but then it's going to cut back across. But Sam Smith shuts the door, beautifully done. But on the run down to Abbey, it looks like Ziras has got the better run and much more horsepower in that BMW, but the Peugeot seems to be holding its own at the moment.
Yeah, they're side by side on what is currently the main straight of the brand new Silverstone circuit. I say brand new, they fixed it in 2009. It's been 11 years, Matt. Come on, get with the times. Meanwhile, Ziras is still at the front here. He's still holding off Ziras. He's defending phenomenally at the moment. And I think Ziras is just biding his time, waiting for a passing point as Sam Smith gets up on 2 wheels. That curb at Priory has really been catching people out. There's a few aggressive curbs. I think Cops is one of those other ones as well. where you can get up on two wheels. I don't think there's any danger of these cars flipping over, but you can definitely lose time, and you certainly lose cornering grip. As Ziras has a peek up the inside through the club corner, but Sam Smith is trying to keep that Peugeot as close to the apexes as he can, making that car as wide as he possibly can as they go onto the main straight to start lap 6. Geez, those first few laps have flown, haven't they?
We're halfway through the race. Ziras isn't going to have a go into cops because that would be suicide. Sam Smith, just that BMW seems to be constantly out of control. Like it seems to be, he's soaring at the wheel going through every single turning, every single corner rather, and every single braking zone. You can see he's getting all up on the curb just to get it turned in time. Sam Smith is a lot more planted, but just nowhere near as quick by the looks of it. Cuts a lot of the track there as they come out onto the hangar straight. Ziras needing to get a good run coming down to Stowe, because I don't think Sam Smith is going to make the same mistake again and send himself deep. Ziras with a much better run this time around. He's going for the inside, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get it done. He's had to brake earlier, but he has gotten through. Sam Smith trying to cut up and around to the outside of the track, but he's not going to be able to get it done. Ziras looks like he's taken the lead of this race, goes defensive down the inside, has to brake a lot earlier, and almost looks like he was almost about to get some oversteer around and into the fence, but Sam Smith a lot more planted. But just look at that BMW streak away as it comes out of club and starts shooting on down to Vale. Sam Smith has lost the lead of this race by the looks of it.
Yep, I'd say Ziras has made that position stick, possibly for good here, as we see this race wear on. We'll see how well Sam Smith can drive as he's got Ziras filling up his windscreen. We'll keep tabs on that one. Meanwhile, a bit further back, Brenton Foley has almost spun out. He was in third position. That's just happened as I flicked over to him. He's dropped down to fourth now. He's under threat from Decimage, who's still performing well, and he will make that pass happen through the bridge corner, but they're still side by side. Meanwhile, Berto's up in P3 at the moment in that Renault, so he's back on the podium spots. Decimage and Brenton Foley are fighting tooth and nail, and we've got 3 cars behind them looking to pick up the pieces if something goes wrong.
Yeah, you could throw a blanket over this set of cars. Decimage right on the back of Brenton Foley after that error from the PBF race engineering driver, and we've got Goofball Antics and Resist. They're squabbling now over Decimage as he has a bad exit out of Luffield. Goofball Antics trying to go down the inside. Oh, they rub it, they cross the line, and Decimage looks like Goofball Antics lifted out of it a little bit. They try to go side by side through cops. That's never going to work. Decimage goes a bit wide, and it looks as if it has actually worked. Shut my mouth. And Decimage has lost 2 positions in that, 3 positions even in that corner, and he's now very close behind Resist, who, having been up in 4th place at one stage, now down to 7th. So this gaggle is just battling all through the midfield.
It's not often you see a pass maneuver happening through cops, let alone 3, and as a result, we've seen Decimage drop back from 5th to 8th. So bad run from him. He was able to get some good running into the pointy end of the field, so it was a great early race from Decimage. And now we're seeing the cars in front of him trying to eke out some gaps and continue to battle with each other. Goofball Antics is still sitting in 5th. Brenton Foley has a bit of a gap to them at the moment in 4th, but they're still in touching distance. Meanwhile, up ahead, Berto has a gap of 2.3 seconds over the lot of them, and he's looking to be on his way to a pretty comfortable podium.
Yep, he's got 12 seconds up the road to Sam Smith. Oop, do apologise, a little bit of a burp. To Sam Smith ahead, and another couple of seconds to Ziras. So at the moment, unless something horrible happens to our front 2 runners, Berto looking safe in 3rd. Sam Smith not able to reel in Ziras at this stage. Last lap for Ziras was a 1:58.3, and we don't actually have a last lap for Sam Smith, so must have got a track cut. But he is not setting the timing screens alight. His best lap is 1.3 seconds slower than Ziras' best lap. So that Peugeot just struggling. And you can see there the gap has already extended out to 2 seconds while we've been watching.
Yeah, so Ziras is doing what he does best, leading from the front, getting his car up into P1 and just streaking away, packing his bags, heading down to reception and checking out.
Nearly,
look at his battle.
Almost
oh my
4 wide, yeah.
Winston Foley's getting spotted, so let's see what they're doing to cops. Zarlinger is trying to attempt to pass. It's not going to happen, but he will be side by side with Goofball Antics, and they make contact. Oh, Brenton Foley's getting involved there as well. Decimage thought, oh, well, I want to join in on this one, and he just shot off the track on his own accord. And now we've got this battle of 5 cars that have just completely shuffled positions. Goofball's up to 4th with Resist behind him in 5th.
Yeah, Goofball Antics, who looked like he was going to be the one to lose out from that, having some contact with Zarlingier through the first corner, actually ended up coming out ahead of it because Brenton Foley also had an immense tank slapper off in the runoff. Desamage ran off the track as we saw, and through it all, Goofball Antics and Resist have actually come through it unscathed in 4th and 5th. Behind them, Zarlingier and Desamage now battling as they come down and into Stowe corner. Desamage taking that position emphatically down the inside.
Emphatically indeed. Cut a really narrow line there through Stowe. Stowe's been a great corner for passing, I've noticed, this race, because there's a few varied lines he can really take, because there's a strange little braking zone on the run-up. It's got a little bit of a kink in it, so you've got to really figure out where you're going to position your car. And as a result of that, the field has started to thin out a little bit in that respect, but as I say that, Desamage and Zarlingier are side by side heading down to Abbey. So Desamage has the line, but he doesn't have the position. Zarlingier's going to make a pass around the outside as Brenton Foley goes completely sideways behind him, and he's struggling back in 8th position.
Yeah, was up in 3rd position, Brenton Foley, at one stage, and now down in 8th, so it's all going wrong for him. Desamage sticks his nose up, coming into Priory, and he's going to have the inside line going into Brooklands if he still manages to keep up alongside. Looks like he's dropped back just a little bit, but he's got a slightly tighter line through Brooklands. And then, Zarlingier locks up a little bit and goes deep at Priory. Desamage cuts up the inside, but then goes deep at the exit, and Zarlingier manages to swipe up the inside. They're rubbing as they come through the last corner and onto the start-finish straight, giving them each other a wide berth, and Zarlingier moving over to take the racing line quite aggressively. Luckily, Desamage wasn't there, and ding ding, battle resumes.
Battle resumes indeed. They're starting to power off once again. Goofball Antics says Resist right up his backside for 4th, as we see Zarlingier in the other Black Flag Industries Racing Honda Accord still trying to hold off Desamage as they tear through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Brenton Foley is watching back as he goes through the gravel. So he's just having a shocker at the moment, Brenton Foley, unfortunately. He's going to cut across the grass and save himself the hassle of trying to go through the tarmac. That'll be a track cut for sure, I would say. But meanwhile, back at the front, it looks like Sam Smith has narrowed the gap to Ziras just marginally. 1.6 seconds or thereabouts at the moment. But it seems to be fluctuating a little bit.
Yeah, so it's sort of still hanging around that 2-second mark. And that Peugeot last lap for Ziras was a 59.2, and last lap for Sam was a 58.6. So it must have been a big error for Ziras at some stage during the last lap for Sam to have that much quicker a lap time. But I imagine that it was just a flash in the pan. We'll keep an eye on it. We've still got 4 laps to go in this race, 3 after this one, and see if Sam's able to eke out or reel in that gap any further. But I don't have high hopes in the kitchen. Don't understand why I cannot get the chicken. Goofball Antics, while I was while I was reciting a cat meme, has lost the position to Resist after a very messy run through Abbey and underneath the bridge. So Goofball Antics now down into 5th place, with Resist currently looking like another 4th place. He seems to always be the bridesmaid, never the bride. So far this season, he's got a lot of 4th places to his name. No wins yet, which we continually tip him for, which I'm sure he appreciates greatly. But at the moment, Goofball Antics now distracted by his teammate Zarlingier. A little bit of team orders, perhaps. Fill that Alfa Romeo's mirror with nothing but Black Flag Industries, Resist saying. Try to distract him off the track. And it looks like it might have worked. Zarlingier sweeps up the inside at Copse, and he's got that 5th position from Goofball Antics, who went deep. Desamage now lurking in the background in the other red car, just thinking, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can get that 5th position.
Yeah, it's hard to describe Resist as always being a bridesmaid and never a bride when he's in 4th. There must be a very polygamous relationship happening between the top 3 brides at the moment. And even for a relationship, it's not a particularly close one. The gap between Berto and Sam Smith is just over 11 seconds for 2nd and 3rd. And that gap from Sam Smith up to the lead is 3.2. So these 3 brides are very distant indeed.
It's a bit of an estranged relationship. I think
very de facto.
I get the feeling that Sam Smith came along later in the piece, and Berto said yes to the polygamy thing, but he wasn't particularly happy about it. So he's sort of just grown more and more distant from the other couple, which has also put strain on Sam Smith and Ziras' relationship, of course. So really, it's a tragedy for the ages. What the hell am I talking about? Further back.
And meanwhile, further back in from 4th down to 7th or 8th, they've just been having an orgy for the first half of this race. And now they've all settled down. They're heading out for dinner. They're going to have a good time and just talk about how things are going for them. And at the moment, they're all sort of straight, narrow, single file. Resist, Zarlingier in 4th and 5th, with Goofball behind them in 6th. Decimage in 7th. And Roadhog has actually passed Brenton Foley for 8th.
Yeah, we just saw that coming down and into Abbey. So Brenton Foley's race going from bad to worse. We wait and see if he's had any of those computer glitches, which if he hasn't, then I guess at least that would be the silver lining for what is otherwise a fairly forgettable race night for him tonight so far. Don't count it out. Everyone ahead of him could explode or something, and Brenton Foley swooped through to take the win, but I wouldn't hold my breath. And at the moment, they are actually the closest battle on track. It's everything has sort of thinned out a little bit elsewhere throughout the field.
You know, I'm not sure how necessary it was for the amount of track cut allowances to be upgraded from 3 to 5 for this race. Because obviously the track can be pretty prone to giving them out, but we haven't seen any drive-through penalties or even anything of the sort being handed out in the race so far, even for the backmarkers. So, and we've seen quite a few of the fast laps being struck off for some of these drivers. Well, there's the commentator's curse. Brenton Foley just got one. I'm just going to go home. Wait, I'm already home. Never mind. I guess I'm just going to power through this one. So Brenton Foley is our first drive-through penalty for track cut violations for this race.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I think it was the last lap of the previous time we came to Silverstone back in round 1 that Decimage got his drive-through penalty for track cuts. So they can come late in the race, and just as you've been saying that, it has of course come to Brenton Foley. So definitely, if it wasn't already, a race night to forget for the PBF race engineering driver. Deeply unfortunate.
But I almost wonder if drivers such as Ziras are keeping track of how many track cuts they have and using them to their advantage, because obviously if you've got an allowance, you may as well use it up. So he's been able to eke out a massive gap. He didn't actually post a lap time last time around, and I'm not sure if he will this time. I'll keep an eye on the timing screen. But that has probably contributed to the fact that he's gained almost 3 seconds over Sam Smith over the past few laps. He crosses the line and he will post a time as 1:58.227 that time around. So just taking a little bit easier now, but I wonder if that's a strategy. What do you reckon, Madbird?
Yeah, it could be, especially the Maggots and Beckett's complex. If you straight line those corners a little bit and cop yourself a track cut, you're still going to carry a lot of speed through those corners, a lot more than you would be if you were taking the actual racing line. So if you've got the 5 of them up your sleeve towards the end of the race and you need to eke out a bit of a gap, then you might as well cash them. As you said, they are there to be used, so why the hell not? And at the moment, Sam Smith just doesn't have an answer for him, does he? It's 4.7 seconds is the gap. I guess the silver lining for Sam Smith would be, I say that, as I cut to him, he had lagged out. He's now back on the track, but oh my goodness, for a second I thought that I just cursed him once again. Silver lining, as I was about to say, is that
I was pretty worried there as well, but he's thankfully still tracking.
Berto doesn't seem to have the pace to deal with Sam Smith, or just took too long to get through that gaggle. Sam Smith and Ziras managed to clear it within the first lap, and Sam Smith now 11 seconds ahead of Berto, so probably what Sam would consider a boring race.
He certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if he throws it into the interview afterwards, so I'll try and get a couple of nicer words out of him, but we are on the final lap. That's really jumped up on us, hasn't it? Ziras is making his way through the final few corners now, and he has led an absolutely dominating couple of races in qualifying sessions so far here at Silverstone. That BMW has really been stretching its legs and flying around this circuit, and he's coming through the final corner now of Luffield. He hits that bump for the final time here, folks, and he will be coming across the line very soon with a handy gap of just over 5 seconds behind him. He's already made his way past Tyrrell as lap traffic, but Ziras will cross the line and he will clean sweep the Silverstone round. He'll clean sweep round 5 with a second race win here at Silverstone.
Absolutely. Very well done to Ziras and to Sam Smith, who defended valiantly but just did not have the ability to hold on to it. Comes home in second place. Berto just crossing the line now to take the 3rd place on the podium. Behind them, Resist will hold off his teammate Zarlingier for a 4th and 5th finish for Black Flag Industries Racing. Goofball Antics coming home in 6th. Decimage coming home in 7th, which he seems to be. I'm not sure if he's happy about it or not, but he's doing all sorts of wiggles across the line. Roadhog coming home in 8th place, so not a great race for the Audi driver. Joshua Bagsy going to come home in 9th place, so some handy points there for Poker Racing Sweat Team. And Nether Elmian picking up the final points paying position as Brenton Foley comes home behind Fruity Ping in 12th place. So definitely, for someone who was up in 3rd place at one stage during that race, definitely a race to forget for Brenton Foley.
Yeah, what a shame indeed. I'm just trying to go back to the replay so I can figure out what happened to him there. I'm guessing he just made an error at some point there, and that's dropped him right back. So, not a fantastic race for Brenton Foley, unfortunately, but on the other hand, a perfect race for Ziras, a perfect round for Ziras, as a matter of fact, and Sam Smith and Berto as well, our podium sitters. And Mad Bird, you have them in the commentary box.
I do indeed. So, Berto, we tipped you to be able to side through the field pretty effortlessly during the reverse grid race, but it looked like you just caught up for just a little bit too long in that mid-pack battle that raged for most of the race. How'd you find the reverse grid race?
Yeah, kerfuffles, lots of BMWs going sideways, I think, and then I think it was about lap 3 when I got a little bit involved with whatever was going on with Fruity, and picked up a bag of understeer from that little incident. So was happy to get through and get to 3rd, to be honest. The car didn't have the pace in that second race after the light damage. So well done to Sam and Ziras, because they put on a great show.
Absolutely. We're going off to Not Hill next time out. Any particular feelings one way or the other about that particular circuit?
It's a little bit more flowy. It could be a little bit more even, but look, BMWs are going to be hard to beat anywhere. So I'm expecting Ziras to be strong, expecting Sam to be strong, expecting Goof to have a good show as well as resist. So 26 points now, the gap between yourself and Ziras. Do you reckon you can pull that in at any point, or do you reckon Ziras is he's off and running at this stage? He seems to have found a good setup, and he seems to be a lot more comfortable. So he could be pretty hard to beat from here on out. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, we're crossing your fingers for you, mate. Thank you very much, Sam Smith. We thought that you had a decent show of it. You looked like you were going to be able to lead that race for a fair while, but Ziras just seemed to reel you in as soon as he cleared that traffic. How'd you find the reverse grid race there?
Oh, it was great fun cutting through that. I hope I didn't hit anyone, but I think people only hit me. So, yeah, the track was too wide, so you can't even pretend to block there. So Ziras is always going to get past, but he tried to hang around for a little while and make some fun of it. But yeah, it's just a little bit too wide. I was a little bit too slow.
Fair enough. Yeah, we tipped Ziras to be at the top of the field at the end of the first lap, but it turned out to be you. We say it every race, and I think you're getting a bit sick of it, but do you think that you do race a little bit better when you've got a carrot in front of you? When you're leading, you seem to struggle a bit?
Yes, I hate to admit it, but yes. the person guiding me through the corners, if it's Ziras or Berto, yes, does help a lot. But no matter what, I wouldn't have been able to stop Ziras then. He was well too quick.
And we saw that you managed to brake later and cut up under him at the Vale chicane, so we thought maybe you would have been able to hold on to it through there, but your ability to brake later just not good enough compared to the speed of the BMW and Ziras?
Pretty much, yeah. I could outbrake him, but that was it. He's always had trouble with his brakes with that car. But I had really good fun. That first opening couple of laps was really good. I had a really good run through all the cars. I don't know whether it was caught on camera, but yeah.
We were caught out when we did notice that you were in third, so unfortunately I think we might have missed a fair bit of it, but regardless, I'm sure it was very fun. I'm glad to hear that you didn't think the race was boring. We're aiming for that, so thank you very much, Sammy.
Thank you.
And Ziras makes it 2 on the trot at Silverstone. You seem to get caught up a little bit in those in that tussles in the midfield through those first 2 laps. Took you a bit to clear the traffic and set off after Sam Smith. How did you find the race?
Yeah, it was it was intense for the first couple of laps. I just sort of on purpose held back to see what people would do, and thankfully I got through clean, but that's because the cars ahead of me were having a bit of argy-barge. And then, yeah, once I cleared the field, I just sat down and pumped laps till I got Sam, and I'd hoped he'd put up more of a fight, but as he said, the track's really wide and it's just too easy to pass, so I'm glad he put up a bit of a fight, and then from there it was just tooting along, I guess.
Tooting along indeed. 26 points now, your lead in the championship. Can you smell yet another trophy?
I kind of hoped I wouldn't be running with it, but I am. No, I think Berto is still strong. He'll definitely pull something out of his ass for the next few races and trounce me. And I'm hoping he does, actually. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much to all three of our podium sitters. And thank you, Matty, for bearing with me tonight. How have you found the racing, mate?
Well, the racing's been really interesting. I think Silverstone's a great track that really shows the differences between these cars here. And it's a great way to see what cars are good in what particular aspects of racing and how the different drivers are handling it as well. So the most fun part for me is we go from this real high-speed Formula 1 track in Silverstone to this tiny little bumpkin-ass Scottish circuit called Knockhill that's 2 kilometers long. It's got one of the tightest hairpins I've ever seen. It's narrow, it's super hilly, and it's going to be fresh hell to watch these cars try and get clean laps and clean races around. It's going to be phenomenally fun to watch. Folks, don't forget to tune in next week, 8:30 p.m. or thereabouts. We will be live on YouTube with all things going well, fingers crossed,
yes,
for a cracking couple of races at Knockhill.
We absolutely will. Thank you very much for watching, everybody and anybody, and for bearing with me as I fumbled my way through this production. Thank you very much to Matty for being a fantastic co-commentator as always, and to all of our competitors for putting on a fantastic show. And we will see you next time.